go.
Attaboy. That's the nothing personal word of the day. It's Friday the 13th. Dun, 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 dun. October 13th, 2023. Attaboy. If you don't know why the word of the day is attaboy, then you weren't paying attention to the Braves-Phillies series in baseball, division series. It ended last night. It ended not because the shortstop Arcia said, attaboy, and Bryce Harper said, oh, I've got motivation. Now I'm going to play well. The series ended because the Philadelphia Phillies outpitched the Atlanta Braves, outhit the Atlanta Braves, and in a 4-game sample, won 3 of the 4. That's it. Let's not look for elaborate reasons. Let's not ask front offices to take the microphone or the manager and try to give you specific reasons who to blame. 100 wins, best offense in all of baseball history. Everyone hit 25 home runs. We slugged over 1,000. We're the greatest. It's 4 games. The Philadelphia Phillies are back in the league championship series. They did it. They said they wanted to get back to the World Series and win it this time. They are one step closer, having to play the Arizona Diamondbacks in a National League Championship Series that everyone is dreaming about in the league offices. Everyone is super excited about. We will preview it on Monday. I want to talk about a few things that happened during this game because we have spent, a week. The playoffs have been going on for 10 days. And I helped you get on this train, but I want to help you get off it now. It's like when I just saw this on an episode of The Morning Show. You don't deserve a cookie when you start a fire and then you bring water 10 minutes later to put it out. Okay, I don't necessarily disagree with that. And the fire that I may or may not have started is that these playoffs have been meh. That MLB is DBR because these series do not go the distance. In the division series, you remember the math. They're all done now. 20 games. That's the dream. That's 4 series going the full 5. That would be the dream. We had a 3 and a 3 and 2 4s. A 3, a 3 and 2 4s. You got it. That's 14 out of 20. When you get a 14 out of 20 on an exam or on a quiz, do you quickly do the math? You do 20 times 5 is 100, 14 times 5 is 70, and say, oh, crikeys, I got a C. Whether or not they're grading on a curve. Oh, they're not? Then it's just a C. 14 out of 20 is no good. That's what we got. So I have been really promulgating that, telling you disappointment, terrible, no good performances. Do you know how many firsts we've had this postseason? History. This is absolute recency bias with zero proof that what I'm about to say is true, but it's going to sound so good for a Friday. There have been more firsts this postseason than ever before. And you're going to say to me, David, the first ever postseason had first for everything. You're right. The second ever postseason probably had a bunch of firsts too. Fine. But the most firsts of any postseason in the past 50 years. How about them apples? Let's start with really silly ones, like in the Dodgers series, which you may have watched. In the Rangers series, Corey Seager, 4.869, Coca. I want this to be very smooth because the Rangers are still in it and the Dodgers are out. So here we go. 4.869. One of the coolest ones that you may have forgotten about, Texas Rangers, their $300 million shortstop, Corey Seager, 5 walks in 1 game. Never happened in the postseason. That's a first. Sort of historic, hard to do. And we're just warming up. Do you remember the end of the Braves-Phillies game 2 with the 8-5-3 double play? An double play started by an outfielder. Never happened in postseason history. That's 2. Never happened. Yesterday, we told you about the 4 solo home runs that the Orioles hit. 4 home runs in 1 inning. Remember off Lance Lynn to eliminate the Dodgers? The Diamondbacks, did I say Orioles? Come on, David. Stay with me. Here we go. The 4 home runs in the same inning for the Diamondbacks against the Dodgers never happened. How cool is that? But we're just getting started. Last night, we were watching the Phillies game. This player who doesn't matter. I never really cared if I liked or didn't like a player. I just wanted a player to perform. Obviously, you'd like as many players on the team as possible who you can deal with because you're with them so much. But there's certain, we've given you the rule, 2 clubhouse turds and your team can't win. 1 is fine. You can get through it. And if it's your best player, then it hurts a little more. If it's a sort of fringe player, you just get rid of them. It's called the turd equation. So there are clubhouses that have them, and there are clubhouses that succeed. I was personally disappointed with the end of game interview by Nick Castellanos yesterday. He seemed pretty grumpy and pretty not the type of person I'd want to go have a drink with. So I'm not going to talk about him personally because he may be the greatest person you've ever met. He may be not the greatest person I've ever met. Doesn't matter. He did something. That's a first. He hit 2 home runs yesterday. What's the big deal? He had 2 home runs the day before also. There's never been a player to hit multi-home runs 2 games in a row. That's a first. How about this apple? We now have a Final Four of the Diamondbacks and Phillies going against the Astros and Rangers. Who predicted that? Well, I predicted 3 out of 4 of those. Do you know that it's the 4 teams with the lowest combined number of wins ever in the Final Four? Ever. There's never been 4 teams who've had all of them 90 or fewer wins in the regular season. And add up all the wins they have, it's still the fewest. That means there have been a lot of upsets this year. So when there's a lot of upsets, that means we're probably going to get a first that's going to really make some people upset because they had their team locked in, winning a hundo, thinking they're going to make it. Here we go. This is the first time ever that multiple 100-win teams got swept in the same postseason. Dodgers got swept, 100 wins. Orioles got swept, 100 wins, more than 100. And that's it. So I view this postseason as awfully exciting so far. I would have liked more games. The Philly Braves games have been amazing. But when you're seeing things you've never seen before, that's the dream in MLB. Although I would argue it's the dream in any sport, in any situation. Don't we all have our cameras out when we're out sightseeing and we're out looking at things, hoping that we're going to see something we've never seen? When you go to a game, go to a concert, oh, I've never seen the cellist fall on his violin. So I'm watching the end of the Braves-Phillies game last night, and it was a young player, Vaughn Grissom, up bottom of the 9th, top of the 9th, 2 outs, 2 on. Very exciting, 1st and 3rd. A pitcher in who's not really a closer. A hitter up who's not really a closer. Not their best hitter by any stretch. Do you remember the idea we came up with about the phantom DH? Where you could have anyone bat at any one time in the 9th inning if you're down a run or 2. Can you imagine for 1 second if we didn't have to pray to God that Grissom got on base to get Acuna to the plate, that we could have had Riley up there if we wanted, or Acuna? I know you're going to at me. I know you're going to make fun of this. But I would like baseball to consider, in one of the most exciting moments of the game, which is in the 9th inning when you're down a run or 2 runs, you've got men on base, you got 2 outs, you have 1 more shot, or your season's done. Let's have the best hitter up. Why not? Both teams will have a chance to do it. If the Braves had scored there, then the Phillies could make sure that Harper's up the next inning. Everybody gets a chance to have their best hitter up in the 9th inning if you're down. It was exciting watching Grissom check swing to end the game, but by no means was that as exciting as it could have been. I'm talking like Ohtani v. Trout to end a playoff series. I mean, who would have ever imagined that Ohtani could face Trout to end a playoff series? It may happen. It did happen in the WBC. Of course, after the game, all that's being talked about is this damn playoff format. I don't want to hear it anymore. I'm tired of it. The Braves lost 3 out of 4 because their offense disappeared. They scored 8 runs in 4 games. They got outpitched, period. Suarez pitched better than Strider twice. Nolan Wheeler were better than, I'm totally blanking right now. This is absolutely shocking, Coca. Help me here, please. Elder and Cunningham. Freed. That was a Book of Mormon joke. Snicker, of course, was asked immediately, how did it work? Why did you lose? It must have been the layoff. We're trying to use confirmation bias here because we're pretending it's the layoff everywhere else. So let's say it's the layoff with you. And Snicker said, hard to say that. Look at the Astros. They're hitting just fine. He's 100% right. There is no way that these layoffs are an excuse. But this subject is not going to go away. So Rob Manfred, the commissioner, had to actually deal with it, which doesn't make him happy. When you're the commissioner during the postseason, you want to deal with on-field excitement. You want to deal with the greatness of the games. He'd want to focus on the crowds in Philadelphia, the excitement, the sellouts, the noise, not the ratings. Don't focus on negatives. Totally ignore negatives and spin toward positives. But when you're asked a question about playoff format, it's hard to bridge that to, hey, but look at all the people in the stands in Philadelphia. Now, you're taught bridging by your PR people. I don't care what someone asks you. I want you to answer what you want to answer. And I always would explain, that's great, but there's sometimes you must cross the bridge that's blowing up, and you've got to run like Tom Cruise as it's blowing up behind you and then jump the last bit. Everyone in the world, when the bridge or the tracks are blowing up behind them, has to jump the last 10 feet and grab on by their hands and get pulled up. It's just how it goes. So Manfred leaned into it, jumped, grabbed, and then said, when asked about the format, it's only year 2. That's my man, Rob. I love him. He gets criticized for some PR from time to time, but he stuck right to it. That is the message that he was given, and that is the correct message. Can you imagine when you're in charge of something, not in charge of complaining about it, but in charge of actually doing it? And after 2 examples for you to work with, are you going to say a change is needed? Just think about what we ask of our leaders. Rob Manfred doesn't have the ability to be a fan nor the desire. Fans look at their teams losing after winning 100 games and losing early in the playoffs, and they want to change. They want to blame. You're not going to fire my manager, then blame the commissioner and blame the format. Give me something that I can take back into my cave that I'm going into until next season, and it can warm me. It can be a blanket around my fandom. And the blanket in this case is, show me that the format's bad, and that means our team is not bad. But Manfred said no. It's only year 2. I sort of view, he said, that you need to give something a chance to work out. I know some of the higher seed teams didn't win. I think if you think about where some of those teams were, there are other explanations than a 5-day layoff. But we'll reevaluate in the offseason like we always do and think about if we have the format right. We don't often say this on Nothing Personal. That's a perfect answer. Every word. I haven't said that often about Rob. The reason why that's a perfect word is, A, that's what he's actually going to do, and B, that's the right thing to do. So for everyone who is going to spend their entire offseason blaming the format, I would say blame Pilar for not going home on the pass ball with 2 runners on in the 9th and Acuna up. Of course, that could have been the 7th. You can blame Pilar for that because then you would have been down 1 in the 9th and it would have changed the entire tenor of the inning, being down 1 or down 2 runs. You could blame it on the fact that the offense disappeared. The pitching wasn't as good. Do whatever you want. You can blame it on the fact that Trey Turner ended up having an unbelievable postseason series against you. You can blame it on Bryce Harper being taunted by Arcia. Attaboy. Or You can go back into your fan cave as a Braves fan, be thankful for the season you had, and say, you know what? We're ready to come back. Those are your choices. So there's 4 teams right now still in. This Sunday, 2 days from now, we've got the Astros in their 7th straight league championship series. I want to give you a few things to look for because I won't see you before game 1 is over. Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, we've got Justin Verlander going against a very good pitcher for the Rangers named TBA. What TBA means, it's short for Jordan Montgomery. It may be short for Nathan Eovaldi. I think it'll be short for Jordan Montgomery, but we'll see if there's an announcement. But here's the keys. If you want to sound smart at the water cooler. Hey, what's going on in the Final Four? Don't call it the Final Four. It's the League Championship Series. It's not basketball. I like calling it the Final Four, though, just to throw people off. Aren't you a baseball guy? Nah, but I am, but it's the Final Four. 1, that Rangers offense, more prolific than the Braves offense. More prolific than the Twins offense, who the Astros had to beat to get there. The Astros need to hold that offense to fewer than 4 runs per game because the Astros, with their great deep lineup, it's great. They're not going to outslug the Rangers. So when you're going in and you're making your game plan, the game plan is let's try to shut down the offense or quiet them. That's one key. 2, not talked about enough. The Rangers' defense is really, really good. If the Rangers make more errors than the Astros, it will be very hard for the Rangers to win. So I'm looking at the E column. A lot of people don't look at the E column. I do. Always love defense because good D helps you get a size 7 ring. The third thing I'm looking at is home runs. These 2 teams can absolutely do it. You see, wait till we get to the Phillies and the 11 home runs they hit in their division series. We've got some serious home run hitting teams. Look what the Diamondbacks did. First ever 4-1 inning. Home runs are a big part of a series now. They're responsible for almost half of all the runs scored. So it does not take a genius to tell you that a key to the series will be who out-homers the other team. True. But now, let's get to the really big key. The Rangers are a streaky team, and they're on a bender. The Astros need to win game 1 when they'll have Justin Verlander pitching on Sunday. Because if the Rangers win again, that means that they will have won now 6 in a row to open the playoffs. They will be only 7 away from winning the whole World Series. If they lose game 1, they are at risk of losing this series in 4 or 5 games. That's how streaky the Rangers can be. Their offense can sometimes disappear, like it did against Seattle at the end of the season, which caused them to lose the division to Houston, which is why they're on the road in Houston right now instead of having Houston on the road going to Texas. And it's not even that long a road, but it's a road, it's a hotel, it's not your stadium, and it's not your clubhouse. So that's the key, game 1. And the last thing I want you to look for is sometimes people give you players to match against. I like doing that. For this series, I'm focused on Justin Verlander and Nate Eovaldi. I don't think they're going to face each other, but it doesn't matter. Remember we did a wait to see on Syndergaard versus Haney? We do this a lot with players. Who's going to have the better season? This is what I'm looking for. Who has the better series? You're going to read a lot about, oh, does Scherzer come back? That would make this an advantage to Texas. We're all waiting to see if Scherzer's on the list for the league championship series. Nope. I'm looking at Eovaldi and Verlander. Who goes deeper and is more effective in the 2 starts they will have at least 2 appearances? Because when you start game 1, you can go 1-5 and then appear in 7 if you have to. You could even go 1-4-7. So now let's get to some predictions. I'm going to give you 3 wait to sees, and you can book them. Wait to sees when I tell you something's going to happen. If it does, great. If it doesn't, great. I'll revisit it. Wait to see the Braves will beat the Phillies. That's a no. It's the only division series I got wrong. 3 wait to sees right. That one, no. We got a new 3 wait to sees. for the American League Championship Series. On Monday, we'll preview the National League Championship Series. Today, we are previewing the American League Championship Series. Wait to see. The Astros are going to the World Series. The Astros will win this series. Wait to see. It'll be in 6 games. And wait to see. The MVP will be their 3-hole hitter, Alvarez. Put those in the book, Coca. It's going to happen. I'm pretty excited to watch this series. So let's go to review, because there's other stuff I want to get to. There's teams right now. This is a time before the LCS where you could see some teams speak. You could see some teams doing something. You have to get permission from the commissioner to have any announcement of any kind. Anything you do during the postseason gets approved by the commissioner because he wants the focus to be only on baseball, only on the on-field product. So you're not going to get a resolution for Wander Franco or Julio Urias. Just as I told you, you're never going to hear another word from them. Tampa's out. The Dodgers are out. Maybe now they can tell us what happened. No, you're not going to hear one thing till the end of the World Series. But with 2 days off now, Friday and Saturday, until the LCS starts Sunday night, you could hear something. Could you hear something about Aaron Boone and about Brian Cashman? The fact that they're officially being retained, not being retained. Could you hear a rumor about what's going on in St. Louis or with Ohtani or with Tampa and their payroll? Maybe you could. Is that why? Is that why you asked me a question? Well, we're going to get to that question right after the break. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. It's Friday the 13th. You don't believe in any of that stuff, do you, Coca? Are you going to leave your house today? There's some people who don't want to leave their house today for it's Friday the 13th. They're nervous. They're scared. I will be out and about. You'll see me everywhere. I watched a movie produced by Bill Pohlad. Do you know that name? If I say the name Bill Pohlad, does it mean anything to you? Remember Carl Pohlad? He was the owner of the Minnesota Twins. When I first got in the game as executive vice president of the Expos, he was the owner of the Twins, and he was the richest owner. You know how now they say Steve Cohen's the richest owner? He was the richest owner of a team that was going to get contracted. They had a tiny payroll. His name was Carl Pohlad. I met him, spent much time with him. He was a businessman, very, very wealthy, and then he died, sadly. And Jim Pohlad took over. Jim Pohlad is a baseball executive, is an owner, and he got a new ballpark built. He's great at what he does. The Twins have been successful, not necessarily in the playoffs so much, but they get there. He has a brother named Bill. Bill Pohlad makes movies. I'd all the time rather talk to Bill than Jim or Carl. I mean, I can't talk to Carl anymore, and I like Jim very much. I like the movies. So the Pohlad family makes movies. They made a movie called Dreaming Wild, and you've never heard of it, but I have, and I watched it. You've heard of the Casey Affleck. I think he's an Academy Award winner. Did he win for Manchester by the Sea? I think he did, and there was all sorts of questions. Should he not? In any case, this is a movie about a true story, about 2 songwriters who write a song as a kid, and it doesn't really go anywhere. And they've got dreams of being, who doesn't have dreams? It's like hitting a home run in a little league game and then having dreams of being a big league player. And then when you're 45 years old, all of a sudden it's discovered that you can be a big league player. That's the exact concept of Dreaming Wild, except it's in the music industry, where you have a chance to be a Grammy-winning artist when you're a kid. Then you end up being in a small town where there's not a lot of dialogue, and you're Casey Affleck, so you're acting very much with your face, your eyes, your emotions. You're very quiet. It's about a life not had that was once dreamt of, and then the realization that it will never be, and then boom, some pixie dust happens, and all of a sudden it is. This is a real story. It's a true story about the Emerson brothers. There's really a guy named Donnie Emerson who's played by Casey Affleck. I loved this movie because this movie should not be reviewed in the cadence that I'm reviewing it. Do people ever do that? Like when you're reviewing a slasher movie, you review it like, or when you're reviewing a romantic movie, you review it, and then the man walked into the room. He looked at the woman, their eyes met, their lips locked, and the movie was now worth watching. I think you don't do it that way, but I could do the cadence for Dreaming Wild. Here would be how the review is. Dreaming Wild. It's the true story of love and redemption. It's about what happened to singer-songwriter Donnie Emerson and his family. When the album he and his brother recorded as teens was rediscovered 30 years later, I'd watch it. All right, Coca, play me some music, please.
You know what I want? I want to talk to Samson.
Oh, I thought there was more that comes after that. I was all ready. Can we do that again? Can you play the end of it? So you want to talk to Samson? Hey, so you want to talk to Samson? Let me count us in. Can you do it? You know what, Coca, please do that one more time.
You know what I want? I want to talk to Samson.
So you want to talk to Samson? Welcome to my Twitter, David P. Samson, or get into our new website. It's called davidsamsonpodcast.com. That's where you can buy merch. We are noticing there has been a strange increase in mugs all of a sudden. Is that because people are having more hot chocolate? The weather's getting colder? Not sure why. I want to get back to the horse hockey shirts and now the hoodies. In any case, contact me. So you want to talk to Samson's from a movie called Half Baked. Great movie. Give me a good question. It may make the air, or I may just answer it on the side, because I like doing things on the side. David, I live in St. Louis. That's a great start, because you happen to know we have a big fan base in St. Louis, and you happen to know how much I love St. Louis and many of the people who live there. I mean, not many of them, but certain of them more than others. We love you here. I don't even know what your question is. I don't even care. I put it right in the show. I'm reading it for the first time. Help me understand the Cardinals. Uh-oh. The owners said payroll is going up and revenue is going down, and they will make a profit. How does this all work? And does this mean that we may sign Ohtani? Oy vey. And what about the Rays president saying the team can increase payroll? All right, that's a lot of questions. I love you in St. Louis. I think I know who this is, believe it or not, who wrote this. Let's take one thing at a time, if you don't mind. Thank you for loving me in St. Louis. I do appreciate that. Help you understand the Cardinals. Help you understand probably the most successful franchise of this century. I'm happy to do it. But I think that by living there, you understand exactly what they do, allowing Albert Pujols to leave right when they should have, by taking advantage and bringing in MVP caliber players constantly, and having one bad season in 23 seasons, winning World Series this century. I'm not sure what you don't understand about the best fan base in all of baseball, in a team that wins way more than it loses. You have rings, so you make it through the gauntlet of the postseason. And then on top of that, you had a crappy year this year. Okay. Do you now understand? But now the owner spoke up. I like Bill DeWitt. Bill DeWitt, the junior, was a bidder for the Orioles in the auction house in 1992 when Peter Angelos got it and Jeffrey Loria did not. Bill DeWitt did not as well. He was involved. Ended up buying the Cardinals. He and his son have run the Cardinals since, you'd have to get me a year, Coca, but they've been there since before, right around when we started. So I'm going to say 99, 98, 99, 2000, something in that range is when Bill DeWitt would have gotten the Cardinals. They run that team incredibly responsibly. There are years that they lose a little bit of money. There are years they make a little bit of money. They have always made sure to maximize their payroll by being very attentive to their expenses and very attentive to increasing their revenue. All of that means it is a well-run team, which makes what he said very strange. If revenue is going down and payroll is going up, it was 1995 that DeWitt got in. Okay, thank you. So he was there 4 years earlier than I was. When revenue is going up and payroll is going up, you are doing nothing to your bottom line in theory, but we don't have the details. Because if revenue goes up by 10 and payroll goes up by 9 and your expenses stay the same, then you've increased your net revenue by 1. Pretty easy math. If the payroll goes up and the revenue goes down, that means expenses go up 10, but then revenue goes down 5. Where do you stand? You stand that you have 5 fewer dollars of net revenue. That doesn't say one thing about profit. If you are making $20 a year in your company, and to make that $20, you have to spend 10. You spend $10 and you make $20. What does that mean? That means that someone is giving you $30. Someone gives you $30, you have to spend 10 of it, and that leaves you with 20. Pretty normal. But what happens if someone gives you $30 and you have to spend 15 of it now? Not 10. Well, then you're only making $15 instead of 20. But you're still making a profit, but you're making a smaller profit. So when your expenses go up by less than the amount of your net revenue and your revenue stays the same, it's cutting into your net revenue, not eliminating it. That is how you can have expenses up, revenue down, but still make a profit. You can have the costs go from 10 to 15 and someone give you not 30 anymore when you were making 20. They can give you now 20. So now they gave you 20, you spent 15, you're making 5. Last year you made 20. This year you're making 5. That still stinks, but it's not bad. What's worse is making 0. What's worse than that is when you have to pay 30 and they only give you 20. Welcome to my life. You pay 30, make 20, you're down 10. Don't worry, we'll make it up on volume. So that's how it works. When you're making a big enough profit, you can handle an increase in your expenses, and assuming that your revenue stays the same, then it's just your profit that gets squozen. You're still not in a negative situation. And why is that a problem? Teams shouldn't be in a negative situation. Why would you sign up to lose money, to spend 40 to get revenue of 30 and say, oh, we're down $10 and we don't even have a ring? Now, why are you asking about the Rays? Oh, because they came out public yesterday, didn't they? You're on it. What a silly, very, very silly, very silly. Don't ever say that. We taught our GM, don't ever say it unless we tell you in advance. He said, when asked about running a higher payroll, that they're open to it. Quote, the president of baseball ops said, we have the ability to do that. Uh-oh. You never say you have the ability to increase payroll unless you know you're going to increase payroll. Then what you do, if you're at 90 is your payroll, and you know that you have a budget of 100 going into next year. So that is your payroll going up. But you also know that in order to get from 90 to 100, you're going to have different players on your team because the current players you have are under contract and they're all getting more expensive with something called natural raises. A natural raise means that you pay a player a 2-year deal at $10 million, but you pay him $2 million the first year and $8 million the second. You've got the same player over 2 years. 1 year you're paying him 2, 1 year you're paying him 8. That means the second year your payroll is up $6 million and your team is the same. You still have that player. Let's pretend we're in a one-player league. Let's pretend you have a player for $2 million in year one who goes to $8 million. Your payroll the first year was $2 million, but you're not going to go to $8 million the next year. You only want to raise it from $2 million to $5 million. I get to tell my fan base, hey, we raised our payroll. We raised it by 150% from 2 to 5. Hell yeah. On a side note, we're trading your favorite player because he's due to make $8 million. Our whole payroll is only going to be 5. So we're trading him and we're signing a new guy and giving him $5 million. So your payroll has gone up. Good message. But your team got a little stinkier. Bad message. So when we meet the media at the end of a season, we are very careful how we discuss what we're doing. Just saying that we're open to a higher payroll is not enough. It let fans dream. Oh, that could be Ohtani. Is it maybe Ohtani? It may be that we're not even keeping the same players we currently have, but our payroll is going up naturally, and we have to curtail how high it's going, so we're going to end up trading a bunch of players. And it's going to be a higher payroll with a worse team, which really is stinky. You need to have the information. So the president of baseball office for Tampa just said, we have the ability to go to a higher payroll, and that's a nice starting point to have. 99 wins with contributions from many players that establish themselves, young players getting their first opportunity. We're in a very strong position. And my argument is that that's a bunch of horse hockey. I'm not sure what position you're in until I see the makeup of your team. And Tampa knows better. They signed their pitcher, the guy with the Tommy John, Tyler Glasnow, that special contract where they only had to pay him like $5 million this year and then $25 million next year. It was the 2-year, $30 million deal. Now you've seen my example. When you're at 5 and then you go to 25, but you got the same guy, your payroll just went up $20 million for the same guy. Not good. Not good at all. And they've got a bunch of young players who are going to get raises. Now, they may know that Wander Franco, bye-bye, they don't have to pay him his money. So their payroll goes down a little bit, but they lose Wander Franco. So I would suggest the teams, when they have an opportunity to talk about this type of thing, I would like to tell you how I play it. We are disappointed with how the season ended, but we are so appreciative of our fans and of our community for supporting us and our winning ways over this past number of years. We are in a position where we've made the playoffs 5 out of 6 years, and we fully expect to be there again next year as we build up toward our new facility. We are excited for a new stadium that we expect to open in 2028, and we believe over the next 3 to 4 years, we will continue to show you that we know what we're doing. We're going to have competitive teams. I can't tell you what it means in playoff series, whereas you saw this year, it's all random. But I promise that we are going to build it into the new stadium. And then you let it happen. We said that. Sort of worked, sort of didn't work. We did build it to the new stadium, and then it sucked, all those players we got. That's what I would do. It's totally doable. Does that answer your question? Does it mean you'll sign Ohtani? The Cardinals are not signing Ohtani. Are we good? And I have nothing against the Cardinals. I just don't think that, you're not signing Ohtani. Nothing. Personal pick of the day. Not good. Not good at all. We had the Braves beating the Phillies. Loss. We had the Broncos getting 11 against the Chiefs. Push. I know, Coca. It's horse hockey. It's crap. I'm pissed. Yes, we were only getting 10.5. Final score 19-8. I hope you were watching the Braves Phillies and not the Broncos. I wonder what Walton and Penner are thinking. Did you see that yesterday, Coca? The transfer of ownership. There's a new control person. Rob Walton's already done. It was always part of his estate plan to give his daughter and his son-in-law 30% of the team, but didn't want to give it just to the son-in-law because there's a rule that the control person has to own 30% of a team. So the NFL gave him permission. Hey, just give it to the guy's kids, your grandkids. You always want to give money to your grandkids instead of the person not married into your family. So that was the big news in Denver, other than Sean Payton stinks, Russell Wilson's the worst, and the Broncos are screwed. Absolutely screwed. So we lost that. We're 144 and 147. I got 2 picks for you. Since I did the Astros winning in 6 games and Alvarez winning the MVP and told you that the Rangers are streaky, you can bet your bippy that I'm taking the Astros on Sunday over the Rangers. It's Verlander against one of the Rangers' best pitchers, whose name is TBA. I don't care who it is. It's going to be Montgomery. I don't care who it is. Could be Nate. It's going to be Montgomery. I'm taking the Astros because Dusty Baker, smart. He knows giving Bochy yet another win in a row, no good. So look for it. They're going home. And then I'm watching my guy Joe Burrow, who I'm going to ride off into the sunset. Joe, when I fall hard, and I fell hard for you. Bengals -2.5 over the Seahawks. It's the any team Russell Wilson was on isn't going to cover or win. That's sort of my philosophy. All right. To end the week, I made you a promise yesterday that I would get to NBA load management. And as Coca told me, you're not going to get to it today. And he was right. And I'm learning. I've only done this for 910 episodes. 910 episodes. And you'd think that I would have learned to at least listen to Coca. He knows exactly how long I'm going to talk, even though we have no script. We don't know, but he knows me so well. I want to end this week to say that it's been a long week for everyone. It's been a tragic week for so many thousands of people. It's still going to be a tragic weekend and a tragic week next week for thousands and hundreds of thousands more. There are still people who don't know where their loved ones are over in the Middle East. It has become a topic where we dealt with it this week. I don't want Israel and the anti-Semitism and the death and the senseless death of everybody, or the terrorist attacks of Hamas that started this. I don't want this to get lost in the, all right, on to the next ism. We as a society, I'll just talk about me. I am guilty as anybody else in the, all right, what's next? We all loved West Wing. Okay, what's next? It's what the president would always say. It's how I did it as president of a team. Took care of it. Don't want to think about it. What's next? The danger in that is it's not what's next for millions of people. There is no what's next going on in Gaza right now, where Israel told the United Nations, if you're living in Gaza in the north side, you better get to the south side and you better do it in 24 hours, giving civilians a chance to get out of the way, creating a huge humanitarian issue, to say the least. Similar, no one talks about it because what's next? The amount of Syrian refugees. Is that a word that you think about often? How about the millions of Syrian refugees who have nowhere to go because they're all getting killed in Syria by their own people? African refugees trying to leave, South American, Central American trying to find a safer place. You want to start talking about the walls, borders? People are trying to go somewhere where they think there's a chance they're not going to get killed. And I'm going to blame them? If the Israelis start a ground war, there's going to be so much death on both sides with no end in sight. If they level Gaza, which appears they want to do, they got to rebuild it. Someone's got to rebuild it, figure out a way to possibly get rid of Hamas and start over. New government, new leadership. We can all dream that change is coming. But my main point is the only thing we can't do is go back to just, hey, we're sticking to sports. We did it. We covered it. I've been guilty. Gun control, Second Amendment. Anytime there's something bad in the environment, the climate, you cover it, you move on, because who wants to hear about it? We came here for sports. We came here for business, to be distracted. We came here to hear you say bippy. Maybe you did. But man, this week was a week where I felt that we all had a bigger responsibility to pay attention, to learn, to read, to empathize. And we did it together. It causes you to be tired, right? Me too. It causes you to long for days where all we have to do is talk about all the first that happened in Major League Baseball playoffs. And this show is not going to become anything other than entertaining because that's what I want it to be. But this show has a responsibility because so do you. When we're here together every day for 45 minutes, we have a collective responsibility to be better. And I hope that you look at this week and say, you know what? We're better today than we were Monday. And I promise you that Monday will be better than we were today. Have a good, safe weekend. Make good choices. And we'll be back live 8 a.m. on Monday morning. It's just business. Although the relationship I have with you, pretty personal. Have a good weekend.